No gurus, no teachers. You want to find. We have to encourage people that they don't need to have a degree or anything or titles. Just trust themselves. So I'm going to.
Hi, this is Scott Ware with Radiance Magazine, and you're watching Interviews on Xpnsion Network. And I have with me today Stephen Ross. Thanks for joining me, Stephen.
Thank you, Scott. I'm happy to be here.
Now, Stephen has been on Gaia. He's been interviewed there multiple times. And he is, I would say you're the president of the World Research Foundation.
Correct.
And behind you, in fact, where you are sitting right now, is a very special library that's in your home in Sedona. And it's a very special place that you are, I would say, the steward of. And it's not just a library. It's actually a lot of energy running through that place and a lot of specialness that I'm going to ask you about. But it is of famous inventors and actually not so famous inventors, but who had those incredible inventions, whether it was free energy, whether it was Tesla, or just all the numbers of scientists and researchers that we don't know their names.
Right.
What am I missing there? What else is there?
Philosophers, ancient philosophy, the mystery schools, dreams, spirituality. We have about 20,000 books, with the oldest book 1492. And,
Columbus sailed the ocean blue.
Absolutely. And when I have all those books with that age, I feel young. After hearing, it makes me feel young, but it's on a variety of health, spirituality, various topics. Yes.
Okay. And I've been in that room and I have felt the energy, the specialness, and just it's amazing. It's like one of those movie scenes. You go into some old shop and you pull these books. I mean, because these are the actual sometimes notes of these inventors and philosophers, right?
Yes, it's right. And part of the reason, Scott, you're feeling that is when I was building this room, I played music 24 hours a day during the construction. And for the first 7
classical
years,
music.
Classical music, 300 CD player, it played 24 hours a day just to set the intent or the vibrations in the room.
And you did that for months?
7 years.
Wow.
The first 7 years, it was just continuous.
That's beautiful. You feel that, you feel the energies of different energies in there, obviously all very high vibe, positive energies. And you're the steward of this, and you have this World Research Foundation. What does it all mean? And is revealing your purpose here on the planet helpful in that, to answer that question?
Well, I'll give you a little backdrop. When I was running at my university, Cal State Northridge in Los Angeles, I sustained a knee injury and was sent to the sports physician for the Rams, Dodgers, and Lakers. The diagnosis was, unless I had surgery, I wouldn't be able to compete. Well, I was very dejected, went back to my trainer's room, and there was a Popular Mechanics sitting next to a whirlpool. And I read about it, and it was a technique from Russia. And I asked Dr. Robert Kurlan, the sports physician, would it work? And he said, this was 1968. Oh, that's holistic garbage. It's never going to work. And I said, well, what do you know about it? He goes, I don't know anything, but this is America. And if we don't have it, nobody has it. And I said, well, I'm going to try it. And I did. I missed 5 weeks of training. And at the end of that season, I ended up placing 5th at the national level and was designated as an All-American. Well, it planted a seed for me, Scott. why did this medical expert say something wouldn't work? And what other things exist in this world that we're not told about? So
Mm.
as a result of that, I started going out making contacts throughout the world, trying to ascertain what is out there that we are not knowing about here because of the limit pharmaceuticals and surgery. So that began a search over the years, which would eventually lead to my meeting the co-founder, her name is Laverne, and we formed World Research. And so this is a compilation of therapies and techniques from cow dung therapy to chemotherapy,
Wow.
everything that we can find.
Well, yeah, and I just wanted to show, you mentioned some secret teachings or something like that, and I noticed on this drop down here the book that you wrote called Manly P. Hall's Unpublished Pages of the Secret Teachings of All Ages.
Right, right.
It's pretty incredible. What kind of secret teachings are we talking about? Let's just get right to it.
And I have to say, I just recently, a show was released on Gaia on this, and I was completely overwhelmed by the orders. But many, many years ago, for those in your audience who are aware of Manly P. Hall, who wrote the book, The Secret Teachings of All Ages and Times, I was very fortunate to cross his path. And as a result of our meeting and a dream that I had about him that I gave to him, he allowed me to go into his personal vault. Now, Manly Hall's Philosophical Research Society is 80,000 books all behind glass, but this was his private vault. And when I was in there, I found an interesting notebook. The notebook said, material that arrived too late to the printer to be included in the secret teachings of all ages. And I asked him about it at the time, and he told me the backstory. It obviously arrived too late. Well, I copied many books on alchemy, and Manly Hall said, could I please never reprint anything I found, because reprinting of the alchemical books was the way they made money. Well, 40 years have gone by, and his society never printed this notebook of this information he wanted to include. It's a magnus opus. I mean, The Secret Teachings of All Ages and Time is a classic. And so Mr. Hall decided to do a series of, I believe, 10 lectures on this material that didn't go in. And I eventually said, well, I need to get that out. I did not write it. I merely put a cover on the front and the back and told the story of my meeting with Mr. Hall. But it is interesting because Manly Hall was a classic philosopher in my mind, in that he didn't give yards and yards of interpretation. He laid out symbols and pointed you in the right direction and allowed an individual's own inner innate guide to move them along. And that's what I admire. I have spent more than 50 years now in the pursuit of health and spirituality. And I would just have to say that he was one of the golden chain of philosophers that have kept knowledge at the forefront without bending and twisting, Scott, to make some kind of wisdom fit somebody's
agenda.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that. And it reminds me, I love to dimensionalize these concepts frequently in conversations people like you and I would have, straddle the fence between this realm and the other realm and other realms.
Yes.
So it reminds me, when you talk about that, he writes things in such a way that he doesn't just tell you the answer, but he allows you to have an experience, it sounds like, of getting the answer for yourself.
Yes, and I feel that is so important because I just feel that people need to trust themselves and allow their journey to be exactly that, their journey. And too often, people are running to every conference, every individual. And I want to share this. I've had and been on podium with many people that your audience would be familiar with. But once they're off the podium, they are not the same as their persona on the podium.
They can be quite human.
Well, they can be quite human and not even really be aware or accomplished of everything they talk about. So that is good that they may be pointing the way. But too often, just like with movie stars and sports figures, someone in the audience is going, oh my gosh, I wish I could be like this person, not realizing that that person may not even be as aware or loving as you are. So I'm just a firm believer that we trust ourselves. We look at people as guides. And here's something interesting that Pythagoras said in 520 BC. When I come across those who I share with, I call them brother and sister. When I come across those who give information to me, I call them mother and father. And when I come across those who I give and help, I call them son and daughter. At any time, you are my brother, Scott, you are my daddy, and you might be my son. It makes us humble that everybody can be our teacher and that we should just make no gurus.
Exactly. And that, I love that distinction, because a guru, which a lot of people will have those in their life, but they don't even know that they've done it. They've given up their power to somebody. And it's almost like there's a disease out there of that we're not good enough, or we don't, or our thoughts are not good enough, or what we have is not worthy of following, when in fact that is the truth. What could turn that tide?
I think what can turn the tide is something that I shared before, and that is people are seeing that politicians and some religious figures who went from the realm of their area, the religious figures are all of a sudden into politics. They love this party, they love this candidate. That's the individual. That's not speaking for the revelator, because often the revelator and the philosophy that person espoused is different than what's being pushed. It is an understanding that people are only giving their opinions, their belief. And I have made it a point, whether it's in my books or my YouTube videos, to tell people, trust yourself. Nobody is any wiser than you and I, Scott. Their awareness at the moment might be slightly better, but their ultimate ability to apprehend wisdom is no greater than we are. And what's hurting most people is what you said earlier. You are giving away the power, listening to this individual and closing your own conduit to unlimited wisdom. And this is why I've written a book also on dreams. And I happen to believe dreams is the direct link for all of us to our own higher source.
Yeah, I saw you do a post on that, and I would encourage people to follow your posts, to check you out on Facebook, because it's, you're always putting positive content out there that's high vibe, that's very
have announced that they will live stream.
There we go. It's just great information, and you are pulling from the greatest thinkers out there. And it's interesting because sometimes I read it, or I hear, well, mostly when I read it, I hear some phrases, older phrases, and of course this is what the people were working with at that time, but the wisdom comes through. So if you or I was Tesla during that time, for instance, or or one of these, that's just simply the language we'd be using. But we were touching, regardless of the exact words being used, we were touching something like that divine strand, that we're plucking that instrument, and it's the same, which means a free energy machine, for instance, a device that just provides energy with no side effects or on the environment and all that, is as available to us now as it was a few hundred years ago or further back. Can you speak to that?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. When you look at things like magnetism and magnetic effects, there are references 800 BC to the use of magnets or fish, the electric eel. There was even writings about a glove that was created that was magnetized, and the person wearing it, when they touched various people, healings took place. Color therapy, discussed by Pythagoras in 520 BC, the use of color, whether it's colored scarves or colored light or flowers. There has been a continuum of the use of energetic substances, sound. There was something called the ancient Persian healing gardens, and people are not, unfortunately, going to find anything written on this, but in these gardens, the walls of the clinic were various flowers, and there were fountains of water that, as the water cascaded, played various musical compositions, notes. The idea of understanding that we are all electromagnetic, and the use of the pharmaceuticals. And yes, there's a place for standard medicine and pharmaceuticals, so I don't want people to get me wrong, but the idea is that the body is English and these medications are Greek. The body, it's just not a part of who we are. We are electromagnetic. We are frequency. And therefore, those approaches were understood. The use of nature, running water. Who can possibly sit by a raging waterfall and not feel a power or energy, Scott,
Yes.
that ties you into all of creation, all energy? And this is what I try to point out to people. I am not saying don't do this, but here's my analogy. A fly lands on a table. I could use one of the wrecking balls that knocks down a building. Yeah, I may get the fly, but I'm going to destroy the table. Or maybe I'm going to use a baseball bat. Well, I mean, if I'm fast, I'll get that fly, but I'm going to damage this. Or you use a fly swatter. That's my analogy, that first go to the least intrusive, less harmful ways and work your way up if you have the time. And so my life has been dedicated ever since I went out and found my own therapy in a magazine to provide people through library information packets the least intrusive approaches to the healing art.
Well, I know also, and if people can see the wisdom that you bring, it probably won't surprise people to let them know that you are also a personal coach or consultant of sorts. And I'll just share this from your site. This is the position you take, and I think anyone would love to be held in this light. You say each of us contains an inner beauty and colorful lights that reflects that which created us. We're all unique because we are here and we have been created to bring our special uniqueness to the world at this time. Let each of us shine our inner colors outward and bathe the world in our unique colors of love, beauty, and laughter. That's some good coaching right there.
Well, the other thing that I would tie in, because you're allowing me to do this, is when people come to me who need help, I check their lephalometer, which is this. I ask Leffel. Leffel stands for laughter, excitement, fun, and love. So someone comes to me, Scott, and I'll go, when was the last time you laughed? And when someone has to go, when have I laughed?
Yeah.
For excitement and fun. Work, no, you have an ulcer from your work. What do you do that's exciting or fun? When I check people's lephalometer, LEFL, and they're devoid of one of these, they are ill. Very rarely have I come across people who love to laugh. They do things that are fun. They're loving. And when I use the word love, it just means it is a vibration. It is an appreciation for what you just read, that we are unique. Why should we compare ourselves with anyone else
Right.
when we are the only one who is us? Does that make sense? Kind of think
Totally
about
makes sense. Now, when I hear that also, it makes me think, okay, if only people knew following your bliss is the path, your
yes,
most enjoyment, but we've been given signals in society that you have to work hard, nose to the grindstone
no
to get
pain,
X,
no
Y, Z.
gain. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
And but it
it
also Hmm?
conditioning. Sorry, it's
Conditioning, yeah. But there's two conversations happening in us, and we have to discern when our ego is telling us something versus that quieter, more solid soul voice coming through. How do we make that discernment?
I think that comes from experience, and I can make a joke here when you said that soul cell. That's why I listen to rock and roll music, the soul sound from the 60s and 70s. But see, if
Mm.
I joke even like this, people go, oh my God, that must be the secret. You have to go back to the, and you only listen
Soul.
to Sam and Dave and Smokey. But
Yep.
no, it's even the same. I'm going to be doing a presentation on dreams. And the reason I'm bringing up dreams are, um, I read in the National Enquirer about 40 years ago, if you want to have dreams about skiing, read books on skiing, watch skiing movies, do everything you can, and your dreams will be, and guess what? It can be like that. But also, dreams are a conduit to a higher consciousness. And the reason I'm going on this little pathway is when a person asks and they are truly desirous, more and more guidance will come through dreams. So,
Mhm.
my answer to your question is it depends on the seriousness of an individual, what they're going to receive back. If somebody is doing things half heartedly and they use the idea of manifestation, which is visualize what you want, and you visualize for 5 seconds and then you change and go back and forth, it's not going to manifest. It is about a consistency. So if somebody from the heart says, you know what, I want to be a better person, I am going to take one more second where I would have reacted to something just to see if another voice speaks to me. Is there something else that comes into my awareness? And you will find, everyone will find, if we stop that knee-jerk reaction and wait, now I'm going to apply this to something else. Could it be when we think of the admonition of Jesus to turn the other cheek? Could it be that that meant as you're struck, you don't react immediately? You wait, you may be struck again, but you have not just reacted to the first initial knee jerk. The
Yes.
more we are desirous, if you ask for bread, you're not given a stone. So, how do we discern? It is when a person works with this that they realize what is coming from their ego and what is coming from a higher part of their own self. And that's what my videos are, well, the YouTube, and this isn't a push for the YouTube, but
No, it's okay. It's
those are
beautiful
the type of
information.
videos that I've put on there to walk people, yes, to a more natural approach.
You have shared so much information and continue to. It's a gift to the world, and let me just say thank you. I mean, look what you're doing here, and no one's paying you to do this, obviously. Um, and it's your joy. And
It truly
go
is.
ahead.
Well, I have been given a gift, Scott. I have a very magical life, and I want to give back.
I agree, and and you haven't seen a day of work in your life, right? Because you've been following your passion, and I understand what that's like now.
And how could we ever retire, Scott, when we enjoy what we do?
That's right.
I could never retire. And by the way, if for those people who think, oh, they're working hard to get to an end, the further you go, the more you find. As you pursue different philosophers, one reason why this library is the size it is when I would come across a name, I would look at what they espoused and then go, I wonder who inspired them and who inspired, and you keep working back. And it is an incredible journey that it really never ends. It's exciting, but I can sum it all up very easily.
Mm.
I had a dream right before a lecture I was giving, and in this dream, I was walking along the ocean. To my left was the ocean, and walking with me are all the truth seekers in the world. And in front of me was a woman dressed in blue who had a microphone, but there was smoke and fog around her.
Okay.
And as I got closer, it was the goddess Sophia. And to my right and her left were horseshoe stands with all of the New Thought people and the book writers and the lecturers. And the fog and smoke was coming from them, obliterating this woman. And I thought to myself, these are well-meaning people, but this is blocked out. What are a truth seekers supposed to do? And a wind blew off the ocean. And I heard these words, all a seeker needs is a beautiful heart, an open mind, and a humble spirit. You don't need the books. You don't need all the courses. It was Paracelsus who said in the 1500s, along with, he said, let no one who can be his own belong to another. Sit humbly before any herb, plant, or person, humbly and quiet, and you will receive everything, all the wisdom that is within that substance or even that person.
Sure. I love that.
We don't need expensive things, just a beautiful heart, an open mind, and a humble spirit.
Yes. It's wonderful. And it's wonderful to live a magical life, isn't it?
It is. And every day my wife and I wake up and we go, what's going to happen today? But in a nice way. What something interesting, because we have made life open and interesting. And we're here in Sedona. And if we happen to see a roadrunner go by or a javelina, we get out the medicine card book. Okay, what is the message that nature's giving us today? A hawk, an eagle. That just makes life thrilling.
Now, Stephen, I recommend you, there's an option also of not going to the deck and just going to your internal wisdom of what that roadrunner meant.
That is true. And that would be—
The cards are a tool, though, I understand.
No, that would be because as somebody proceeds, it is there. It will always be there. When somebody humbly asks, the answer will always be there. And it may show up quickly. It may be that the attributes of that animal is something we either just finished or we're contemplating. But no, I agree. It's the same thing, Scott, when I talk about the electromagnetic devices, multi-wave oscillators or Rife. I know that we can generate all those frequencies without any machines whatsoever. So that's exactly in the line that you're talking about.
Interesting.
The more that we are into it, the more that we tap into the universal consciousness.
Now, I'm glad you brought up the universal consciousness, because curious if you think we're going to change the way humans experience reality by moving away from duality. Are we going to be able to do that here? And is it worth doing instead of experiencing this experience?
My question would be, why would we leave the spiritual realm to come down here and create the spiritual realm of perfection? This is a schoolroom. in a schoolroom, you have opportunities of expression. In my personal opinion, it will never be like that anymore. And for people who think magically everything is going to change, that would be the equivalent of people in elementary school and something comes down and goes, you are now a college. You are now college students. This is a material world set up to allow us to demonstrate how we're going to manage creative energy. Of course, this is completely my opinion based on my input. It is a schoolroom. Now, how will the schoolroom ultimately go? Well, if people are throwing spit wads on the blackboard and tearing down the buildings, the question would be the people who built the schoolroom, is it still going to be a schoolroom based on what they're looking for?
Because we don't want Alexandria burnt down again.
And that is one of the challenges. So in my opinion, it is about the individual. It isn't that you just don't have any social consciousness. I'm not saying that. We each are here on our unique and beautiful pathway. And based on our choices, what you make and what I make is going to bring us down a set of learning experiences.
Yeah.
And those experiences are right for us. There was no, oh my gosh, I should have, no. Everything is exactly how it should be. 4 people in a car driving. One looks out and goes, and they're positive. Oh my gosh, it's a beautiful blue sky. The other one in the back seat looks out at that moment and sees somebody cutting someone off or stealing a purse. We seem to gravitate to what we espouse and who we are.
You see it, you be it.
You see it, you be it. Absolutely.
You spot it, you got it. Yeah.
I
So
like it.
yeah, so what we see is a reflection of us, and what we choose. Someone might say, well, no, that's not true. I actually did see that. It would, it's worth mentioning. It's like, well, okay. And it's not for us to judge others and what they're doing. But when we are looking at ourselves, it is helpful to look, I believe, and I'm sure you do, to look at, okay, what did we say today? What did we share with people? And was it, it's like what in Buddhist lessons they talk about, was it helpful? Was it positive? But the helpful part is the thing. But above and beyond, I'd like you to address that, but also some people out there who are doing good things believe other people should be doing the same good things. And they're like maybe projecting their thing onto other people and think, well, if you're not doing X, Y, or Z, or taking care of the starving or what have you, or the homeless, then you're really not spiritual.
Right. Well, I'd like to look at the first point that you brought up, and that is that Pythagoras had a system that he used back 500 BC. Upon bedtime, you reverse all your experiences from the latest all the way back to the beginning of the day. This accomplishes 2 things: observing what you did and reversing this flow of time. Get out of this lock in time. And you go back, even if you can go further back to where you're remembering your dreams, and you just keep retracing back.
Okay.
The second part in regards to what is right and what isn't, it reminds me of a story, a yogic story about a teacher who was going on a journey, and the Cheller student said, Master, where are you going? I'm going on this journey. Can I accompany you? You can accompany me if you absolutely do not question anything you see. Okay, so they move along, and as they were on their journey, they came to a creek, and there was a boy who had fallen in face down and was obviously dying. The student was so sure the teacher would run over, and the teacher didn't. The teacher walked on. They came eventually to the ocean. There was a ship crashed on the rocks, people screaming, people dying. The student was sure the teacher would go. The teacher didn't. The student goes to the teacher and says, I've lost all respect for you. I'm not going to follow you, but I do want to know why you did that. Now, the teacher said, when we came across that young boy, that boy was going to grow up and be the cause of millions of people's deaths. That ship that you saw was a pirate ship that was raiding other ships and killing many people. Now, what is this about? What it's about is things are not always obvious, and sometimes nature or the universe is doing things, making corrections, setting up pathways, setting up experiences. So somebody could ultimately say, no, the person should have, the teacher should have done this, shouldn't have done. When you get to a certain state of awareness, not higher or lower, one can see what various actions are going to lead to. And it's not always obvious that somebody should be giving to this person. You should just run out and give to every poor person. I will tell you that there's times, and I don't mean this to glorify myself, I actually have given a big bill to somebody because something inside motivated me. And later I found out whether it was $20 or $100 to somebody who goes, they would break down and cry. So it wasn't that I should go out and help every person. It is about being in integrity within your own self, that you are doing it because there's a need and not because you're supposed to.
Right. And because when we fall into that trap, well, you won't fall into it, I suppose, if you internalize the knowing that no one ever dies, that no one is actually in any trouble.
That's right.
That everyone comes here and incarnates with intention. They're never blindsided. Now, yes, we lose our memory. That's part of the game, but we came here and incarnated on purpose. And maybe there's some people inhabiting certain countries or certain ways or certain places just for that reason, to be in that position for the rest of us, but also for themselves, for whatever reason that we can't fathom.
It's a path of learning. It is a path of particular experiences that are going to come in because you're male or female, you're of a different nationality, rich, poor. Every one of these is affording challenges and opportunities of expression. It'd be like if you're in the spiritual world and it's easy to say, oh yeah, I've got it. I'm a philanthropist, I can do this. I would help. But when you're down in the material physical world, super slowed down,
yeah,
somebody's demonstrating, if they truly understand the precepts, that would tend to make more sense. This plane is full of talkers. This plane is full of people who do not walk their talk. They can espouse, you should do this, and this is the right way, and I am a person in a position to tell you, and then we find out that they don't do it.
I put up a post the other day. I have a group on Facebook called the Radiance Experience, and it's where I ask questions. I love people's input on, whether they've had a near-death experience, can they share about that, or how do you keep your center when you're having a challenging conversation with a loved one? These kinds of things. And then we'll print them in Radiance, like a letters to the editor, and they'll do that. And then one of the questions, I put something out and someone said something about, oh, they would put a statue up to that person. And I said, or you could embody what they're teaching and put a statue to yourself. And it blew her mind. And she just had the grace. I never thought, and that's what we're about. That's what we're espousing, right?
That is beautiful. In the ancient times, when a philosopher talked about a philosophy, later we label it Platonic, Stoic, they walked and taught that philosophy all the time. When I use the word integrity to help people understand, it is an integrity within your own being, that what you think about here and here, you embody it all the time. Then you can call yourself, in my opinion, a Christian, not just, oh, I go to church on Sunday, but that person doesn't follow even a quarter of the precepts that that great soul taught. It is an integrity within the self. And you are right. You know what? We're all not going to be Gandhi. We're all not going to be Albert Schweitzer. We're not all going to be Tesla. But
It's okay.
you're right. It's just be your beautiful self. That is what it is. Be an integrity within your own self. Why do people get ill? I've been in the health field 50 years because they do something that is actually against their own thoughts. They realize something's wrong,
Yeah.
and they do it anyway. And the
So,
body,
and not that we're judging people out of integrity. They're on their path. It's a beautiful path. Everything's perfect. We're discerning. We don't choose that for ourselves.
well, the integrity is stay current with what your belief is. In other words, we're not saying, I've never told somebody don't smoke, don't drink, don't drink. If somebody feels within their mentals that they should do a certain thing, stay consistent with that. I was once told by a spiritual source, this may sound funny, if somebody's going to be a crook, be the best crook you can.
Right.
Be in integrity, do it. The point that the spirit was making was that is an integrity within the being. So you had asked earlier about people say you should do this, you should do that. Are they saying that out of guilt? Are they saying it because they really believe it? Because if they did, they wouldn't be saying anything. They would just.
So that's where the disconnect is with people. They could say things, and you could even confront them and say, it sounds like you don't really believe that, and it would just cause them to be flustered, and they would, but in polite company, we wouldn't do that. But if they were open, if they were in a group or something, or if they were being counseled or helped, because I was talking about integrity recently, and I used to not like the word at all because it felt like something I had to do for other people. Oh, you have integrity if you keep a good job, support your family in the right way. Now, these are virtues I believe in, but not because I have to do it according to how it measures up with someone else. That's why I moved away from it until I understood that integrity is actually all about being in alignment with myself.
Perfect. I love it. And that has been my definition. Somebody like that, you will find reading the histories of the older philosophers, they would do things based on truth, even if it hurt them personally or financially. Why? Because that was keeping the integrity of what you say. I'm going to use an analogy for our modern world here. Somebody goes to play blackjack, and in blackjack, you hit and stay in particular points. If the dealer's got this showing and you have that in your hand, people will stay consistent when they're only betting $2 or $5. But then if it's a higher bet, they go, oh. As soon as one breaks away from whatever you've set and believe, it most of the time does not work out well. That is why.
Yeah, it's like saying I'm on a ship and the ship needs to be airtight, watertight rather, to float. But now I'm going to start putting holes in my ship. Why would you do that? Because it was some learned conditioning,
Right.
or a lack of belief in oneself, or lacking to see the benefit of being your most authentic self and discovering that, because we have habits or distractions from conditioning.
And I like, because you're underpinning it, and we're both saying exactly, trust yourself. If we can just have people understand how unique they are, and the beauty that they have. And each person has something different because they are a different person. And this desire to have what somebody else has, to walk or to look where you literally kill yourself trying to look like this person. Again, as we said a couple minutes ago, the people that we admire should be looked as somebody helpful, but to say we want their life, gosh, every day we read about these people who seem to have everything, and seriously, they're messed up. And why do I say they're messed up? They're messed up within their own self. They can't even be happy. I always prefer somebody who's consistent. I may not agree with somebody's opinion, Scott, but if they are consistent, I respect that. It's kind of the wishy-washy up and down people who really are the ones who become more ill and have more problems. It's a consistency. Now, what is the model? We can have people that we admire, but we can never be them. It's just physically, spiritually, mentally impossible.
I think everyone should build a statue to themselves. Just the idea of that, and maybe not exactly, but the idea of that, and really incorporating that into ourselves is helpful in reminding us of our divinity, of our specialness. It just would, you know what I mean? It would turn it, I think.
A thought just popped into my head because you said that.
Yeah.
I am just going to step back a couple steps. Keep me on, because
Sure.
I want to bring something.
Okay.
Here's a picture of J.R. Newton. And I went online, this guy's from the 1800s. And for a couple bucks, I made this little statue. There's a service that does this. You know what I like, Scott, what you just said?
What?
I think people ought to go on and have their own image.
Yes.
A bust of themselves, because around my library, I have busts. Oh my gosh, I've got Plato and Aristotle and great healers. And people, when they see kind of busts, it's like, oh, this has to be somebody special. Hey,
yes,
how about a bust of your own self that you put and go, you know what? I'm special. I like your
yeah.
idea.
And it also looks like something you would leave after your physical life in this biosuit right now, and you're looking in the future at someone maybe making a bust of you because you're in a library somewhere maybe, and it's like looking at it now, it's sort of like, okay, what life am I going to leave behind? Well, I mean, not that you have to do anything,
Right.
because it's about being before the doing and the having, right? Who you be.
Scott, it just, as soon as you said that, I thought, wow, there's more to what Scott's saying. Audience, this man is very wise, Scott.
I'm with smart guy here as well. But I would like to know the name of that company. Maybe get it to me. We can.
Oh, okay, yeah, because off the top of my head,
Yeah.
I don't
So
remember.
I'm gonna make busts of people and send it to them and let them know how special I think they are.
Yeah, I mean, it's just really great because of our concepts of a bust. A bust is made out of somebody who achieved, had notoriety, or had the big bucks to do it, whatever,
Yep.
and you just elevate people. We're on to something now. This could
I
be
think so.
good. Let me see.
I really think so. I know so. And it's amazing. And it's not meant to put pressure on anyone, but it's meant to give them a perspective. And, in a way, it's another layer of mirror work, if you will.
Yes, it's good, and it's clean and healthy,
Yes. All right. We'll pick that up and continue that. So in closing, I guess I love what you've shared. I want to know what else you would like to share about the work you or the foundation do, but also what you'd like to leave people with. So I mean, people are left with your beautiful, wonderful, heart-filled presence, as I am.
Thank you.
So that, but what would you put into English words of what you'd like to leave people with, aside from the consistency message? You made that point. What else would you say?
The first part, I would let people know that the World Research Foundation does have information packets on about 320 diseases and illnesses. so that people who go there will be able to find out. It's WRF.org, and people will find options there. But the library, it's important that people come to the library as much as you receive the information. Now, I don't know if it's an echo. I don't know if
Oh, you know what? Yeah, because I share. Okay, now the echo stopped.
but I would say that my YouTube channel is to inspire and empower. There's no charge there. I'm not selling anything. But here's what I would love to leave with people. We have come down to this earth plane, and there is so much beauty. If you just take the time and get out in nature, put your feet in the grass, put your feet in the sand, and listen to the birds and just watch the clouds in the sky. This is all provided to us. What we do with it is always our choice. What befalls us is the choices that we make. There are choices to take something now or not to take. There is no right or wrong, ultimately spiritually, because whichever pathway somebody goes is going to be their pathway. I use the word leffel, laughter, excitement, fun, and love, because I would leave this with people. When I give lectures, I use paper airplanes and water balloons. I don't diminish the message of the ancient teachers, but I try to integrate with people. Have fun. Have fun in life. People, there are serious things that we face. But somebody once sent me a cartoon many years ago. It was a picture in hell, and there were two devils talking, and there was a guy with a wheelbarrow whistling. And one devil turns to the other and says, "We just can't break this guy." Well, the point is think of the beauty, think of the love. And that is what I try to do. When I leave someone, did I plant flowers or did I cause swales? And that's what I would leave people with. Do something of beauty, accent beauty, be beauty, and your world's going to be more beautiful. And Scott, I thank you for this opportunity to share.
Thank you. Your words and energy touch my heart, and I'm glad you're there doing what you're doing. In fact, when I think of you doing what you're doing, I have a picture I'm about to show you might make you giggle a little, but I'm going to say that you are both the people in this picture. There was a time when you may have taken up the mantle of being a steward of the books and the library and the works of these great inventors and philosophers and writers. There was a time you were younger, and there's a time you're older, but you're not old at all. You're one of the most youthful people I know. But this picture, I would say you're both people. There was a time when you took it over and you accepted the mantle, and there's a time, well, you'll see what I mean. It was a famous movie. Okay, so in this Indiana Jones movie, he was searching for the Holy Grail, and he came to the cave where it was kept, along with a lot of other chalices that you had to know which one to choose. And there was a keeper of the wisdom of the chalice, and he was actually looking for his. And I'm saying you're both of these, and neither. You know what I'm talking about. It's
great. That is really funny. And that really fits in line too with my quote on Pythagoras early, that we're teachers, we're seekers, want to be taken care of, we want to help others, and just accept the diversity and be in the moment. And if we're going to be, things are come to us, just humbly say, I needed that right now. That's my daddy, or it's my brother. So it's all good. Thank you for the picture.
Because if we know that everything that happens for our highest and best good, that's a good perspective to hold.
Always.
And very empowering.
very.
Yeah. Thank you again, Stephen Ross. People can find you at lesscomplicated.net. And all the links to the World Research Foundation are there, and to your and the YouTube channel. I would do a search on YouTube of Less Complicated, the two words together, to make sure you find it. And they can reach out to you. What's your email?
My email would be Dear Orpheus, all one word, at gmail.com.
Perfect. Love it. Thank you again, Stephen. This was wonderful.
Thank you. You take care. Have a wonderful day.
You too. And everyone, thanks for watching Interviews on Xpnsion Network and social media, wherever you are watching this. My name's Scott Ware with Radiance Magazine, which you can find at radiancemm.com. Frequently, you'll find Stephen in there as well. Thank you. It's a fun question. Sometimes questions like that, even what you might call a softball question, can still bring out an answer that is desirous and desirable to watch. And you know,
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm not going to ask you if you were going to be a tree, what kind would you be? But
oh, my wife just yesterday
yeah,
morning goes, Steve, if you were an animal, how would you describe yourself with an animal? And she really caught me off guard at first. I go, I don't know, maybe a road runner. I'm kind of moving fast. Sometimes I crash into stuff. She goes, so I thought you more of a horse. I said, I hope it's a thoroughbred and not a Clydesdale. She goes, yeah, it's a thoroughbred. But it was a very interesting question.
it is. Yeah, Maria and I
I'm
ask each
for all
other.
that stuff. Spontaneous is good.
Yes.
God, it's the best.
Mhm.